My name is Cameron Basden, and I'm the Artistic Director of the Miami Dance Hub. And I'm thrilled today to be speaking with Dr. Daniel Lewis, Founding Dean of Dance at New World School of the Arts, choreographer, director, innovator, coach, teacher, dancer. Welcome,
It's
Danny.
my pleasure to be here.
Your life has been so rich. You've had so many wonderful, amazing influences in your life.
I've been a lucky person. I was lucky in the fact that I found dance when I was 5 years old, only through a fluke.
Yeah.
You know, I had a club foot and the doctor recommended tap dancing. And boy, the first class I knew it was me. I found my voice.
What has kept you in this world for so long? You've had so many roles in various capacities as your life has transgressed.
It's a difficult question to answer. I don't know. All I know is I enjoyed everything I did. When I was taking tap classes, I was the only guy, so it was special. Then all of a sudden I was teaching kids younger than me because the teacher at the school saw my talent, I guess, and used me, to put it bluntly. And then next thing I knew, I was in performances, doing shows. I did some TV work early on when they wanted guys who could dance. Things just fell into place. Part of it, as I think back, has to be my personality.
Yeah.
People always took to me.
One of the things that I have heard about you and read about you is that people always responded to you. They liked you. They liked to be around you.
Well, I think I got to say it's probably my dad, who was one of the kindest, most wonderful people in the world.
Oh, nice.
And he taught me at a very young age that you have to do good in the world. Right. I remember one time I went home and I asked my mom, "Where's Daddy?" "Oh, he's down the block sitting with a woman who's dying," and comforting her. So I became that kind of a person. I was also always eager to learn. And I think people like that too, that I would meet someone and I want to know more about them. I want to know why they were in that position doing that thing, whatever they were doing. And it all comes under the fact that dancing is what I really enjoyed.
Yeah. You started teaching at a rather early age. I mean, you've been teaching your whole life,
I think
really.
I was 9 or 10 years old when I taught my first class.
Wow.
to infants, you know.
To littler
Little
kids.
ones, yes.
Wow. Many times people have an image that they create when they walk into a dance studio, and you think about a dancer, and you didn't have kind of that image. You looked very differently than people think. You used to wear jeans, was it? And
Jeans,
cowboy
and boots. Carried an attaché case. I didn't want to be the classical dancer. I didn't want the dance bag. I also didn't want anyone in Brooklyn to know I was a dancer.
Oh.
This was tough. In Brooklyn,
I started to
in
say
the
it must have been
50s,
difficult being a guy in the dance world.
I mean, I took my first class in 48. So in the 50s, it just wasn't the thing that a guy did. You played basketball, baseball, hockey. I did play a little hockey on the streets with roller skates.
Oh, wow.
That was the only sport I actually liked.
Wow.
What really changed my life was in middle school, which was terrible. Even these days, middle school is the most difficult school for kids to go through.
Yes.
They're not quite grown up. They're questioning who they are, what they want to be.
Sure.
Well, in middle school, I was really persecuted because all the guys at school found out I was a dancer.
Right.
They called me all sorts of names. I was the big one was La Twinkle Toes. Here comes La
no.
Twinkle Toes. And then even one guy had a cigar and shoved it behind my ear while I was in the courtyard at school.
Oh, goodness. Kids can be so
And
mean, can't they?
they were terrible. Middle school was the most horrible time of my life. Right. And if it wasn't for the fact that my mom saw an ad in the New York Times, or an article, I guess it was, about the high school performing arts, the first what we call magnet schools, but it was actually vocational high school for dance, theater, music. And so she took me to an audition, and I did my little tap dance.
So your parents were supportive.
Oh,
I mean,
totally
certainly,
supportive.
Yeah.
They loved going to the concerts. They loved seeing me dance, but the next day I never talked to anyone about it except them. The only thing my dad never told anyone in his office where he worked, he was a tool and die maker, that his son was a dancer.
Right. He was supportive of you, but not like externally.
Externally, until I wrote a book, my first book on dance technique. Then I was an author. Author was acceptable.
Then you could be the author,
Right,
but not the dancer.
I auditioned for the High School Performing Arts. I got in, my life changed. That's where I met Mae O'Donnell, David Wood, Gertrude Scher, all these fabulous, Ann Hutchinson, who's just went through her 101st birthday. I think.
Amazing, huh?
Yeah. So I met real professionals in the world. But what's more exciting about that is the kids in the class would turn to me and say, "That was a great performance last night. I had never heard that."
Right. So you're with people that were like
I
you.
was with people, they all loved what I was doing.
Yes.
They respected
They
it.
supported you.
They gave me encouragement.
Yeah, and kind of validated what you were doing.
Absolutely.
Wow. And that's also a great list of names that you just mentioned that were your
the
colleagues
creme de la
and your
creme
peers.
of the dance world.
Yes, for sure.
And David Wood actually became my mentor in those days.
Right.
What I loved about David was he was a guy. He had a family, which is what I wanted eventually.
Right.
A wife, kids, the whole catastrophe. So he sort of nurtured me through the High School of Performing Arts, which was wonderful. But Juilliard came next, and not because I wanted to go to college. I was not planning on college. My plan was to be a Broadway dancer.
Ah.
I knew all those musicals inside out. I couldn't sing well, but I figured if I danced enough, they could put me in the chorus in the back.
Right.
And I had gotten into my first show, which was Anything Goes, off-Broadway. And I also got a letter at the same time from Uncle Sam saying, "Report for a physical." And I'm at the Graham studio taking classes with my attaché case and wearing a tie.
Which is now your signature.
Signature.
I
never got over that, I had to be a businessman. At the Graham studio, Herb Millington, Martha's pianist, I said, I'm worried I'm going to have to stop all this and go serve a couple of years. And it was no big deal in those days.
Yeah.
I think Vietnam hadn't started yet. It was just the beginning of that period of time. I knew I didn't want to be in the military. Both my brothers, volunteered and were in the military. He told me to audition for college and get a 4-year deferment. And then in that period of time, you can decide what you want to do with your life. So he said, "Juilliard's having auditions, go audition." So I went and auditioned, and I think within a week I got my letter back saying...
Did you think that you were going to get in? Were you nervous?
I wasn't nervous at all. It was just an option.
Uh-huh.
It could save me 4 years till I had to go serve in the military. Back in those days, every guy had to serve in the military. But when I got into Juilliard, now I had great faculty at the High School of Performing Arts. Now I've got Jose Limon, Martha Graham, Ethel Winters, Hector Zarosby,
It's like a creme de la creme.
Melikova. These are the top-notch. Hanya Holm.
Yeah.
I mean, these are people that I've read about.
Yes.
I saw
and
My
people
Fair
that really
Lady.
influenced the dance world
Yeah.
in their time, of course.
And with my personality, which I guess it was, because even at the High School of Performing Arts, Rachel Yoakum, who directed the program, took me under her wings. Even after I graduated, she brought me back to dance. And I used to help with the sets and the lighting and stuff like that. I was always there. I was also the one, let me go back a step further, because I had just thought of this. In grade school, I went to a terrible K-6. They didn't teach you anything. It was awful. But they brought in guest artists, speakers.
Right.
And every Friday, there were two I remember so distinctly. Jackie Robinson came and spoke. I was blown away because I'd gone to Ebbets Field. I've seen him play. And now, but I was on the AV, which is the AV squad, the people that set up the microphones and all that. I was always volunteering to do things. So I got to talk to Jackie Robinson, test the mics with him and ask him questions. And the other one was Helen Keller.
Oh, my.
What an honor when I think about it now. Back then, I was just a kid and we talked.
Yeah, you don't even realize at the moment.
She signed and she could hear a little bit. We could have a conversation, actually.
But you also knew enough, or you were interested enough to seek more.
Oh, very interested.
Yeah.
I know who she was.
Yeah.
This was special. And we were prepped ahead of time that she's coming. And no matter where I went, I always found it very important to connect to people.
Right.
Because you never know what they're going to tell you, or what you're going to learn from them.
Right. And also they must have left an impression on you
Major
years later and later and later that you still remember those certain times.
Yeah, which brings me back to Juilliard and meeting Martha Hill.
Yes.
Who I didn't know who she was at the time. but she was really an interesting woman. She had a bun on this side of the head. I'll never forget that.
You don't know if it was on purpose or just fell over?
Maybe this arm worked better than this arm when she did her hair.
Yeah. Tell us a little bit about Martha Hill, because she was a huge influence on you, but also
she was one of my
the
mentors.
dance world.
Yeah, I'd say I have 3 mentors that I really, David was one of the early mentors, but I had Martha Hill, Anna Sokolo, Jose Limon. Those are great mentors. Martha I took to like fish takes to water. I had no scruples. I used to walk, when I had a break, I used to walk into her office and say hi.
And she was a very difficult woman. I mean, she kind of
could
liked
be.
you
It depends
or
if,
didn't like you.
If she liked you, you were fine.
Right.
If she didn't like you, your career was basically over.
Yes.
You had to move out. But she had an eye.
Yes.
She could see who was what. She could see what. She would look at a piece of choreography, and she was hard of hearing in her old age. And in the theater, she would say, "Oh, that's terrible." And she's the only person I knew that could talk to Anthony Tudor like he was a student. Could talk to Hanya Holm like she was a student. She was honest.
She was very straightforward.
Straightforward, told it as it is. And she's the one that changed the face of dance in this country.
Yes.
She made NYU an arts program instead of a physical education program.
Right.
She did the same thing at Bennington College. She did the same thing at the American Dance Festival.
Yes.
And what I loved about her at Juilliard, you were no longer a ballet major, a modern major, or a Graham major, or Limon major. She rounded it off that you were a major in dance.
Right. Right.
The styles were whatever they wanted to be. Right. And by the time Juilliard got to Lincoln Center with Martha, you didn't even call it Limon classes anymore. You said you're taking Ethel's class.
My
Ethel
goodness
happened
gracious.
to teach
Yes.
Graham technique in her version of it. I taught Limon technique, but it was Danny's class.
Yes. Yeah.
And now her students are all over the place
Right.
doing great things.
So what do you think it was why did you connect with her so strongly, or what did she see in you?
It's hard for me to know what people saw in me. I know what I saw in them because another story, Louis Horse, who was Martha Graham's lover and her musical component. He did all the music for her and watched after things. He would sit in the office before he taught his class. He taught composition. I would walk into the office, "Hey, Louis, it's my Brooklyn." You
felt comfortable.
I had
people
no
felt comfortable
revere
with you,
for people.
and you were not afraid. You didn't have that sort of like
bowing before.
Yes, you were very comfortable.
I'll never forget coming back from Asia one year. I bought a little tiny Panasonic tape machine with tiny little reels. And back in those days, you had a huge Wallensack that weighed 50 pounds.
Yes, I know.
Around.
Times have changed.
So I walked in. I said, "Hey, Louis, look what I got." And I showed it to him, and he said, "That's amazing." He said, "This is going to change the way people choreograph." And I loved it when I talked to people, and they had ideas, and they didn't say, "Well, this could." They would always say, "Martha, too.
Yes.
This is going to make a difference.
Yes.
This is right."
Right.
And learning from those people was incredible.
Wow, wonderful. Can you talk a little bit about Anna Sokolo? I know that she was another person that you worked with. Tell us about who she is and sort of what your experience
Anna was
with
an
her.
amazing choreographer.
Yes.
Still is. Actually, a couple of nights ago, I watched her work Rooms on Zoom.
Oh, yes, I wanted to watch that.
I know, it was wonderful.
Yeah.
And people who danced in her works talked throughout it. Hannah Khan was there, who danced in my company.
Cool.
What I really loved about Anna is she didn't do dance for dance sake ever. Every dance had a meaning. Every dance had a reason. Every dance had a story to tell.
Right.
And she would never bend from her story. She would never try and please an audience.
Right.
I remember doing Ballade with my company, and it was Alban Berg, very slow, laborious things. Half the audience was sitting on the edge of their seat, really involved in it, and some of the people just couldn't figure out what she was trying to tell them. Or when she did Dreams about Nazi concentration camps.
Oh, wow.
And the piece would end and no one would applaud. And there were people in the audience with tears in their eyes.
And she didn't really do it for that purpose.
No,
it was
she
because
didn't
felt
care
it was
about it. She's,
right in its own way.
If anyone had applauded, she would have looked at them, what's wrong with this person?
Yes.
But it was amazing. People would not applaud.
Yeah, she was definitely a rebel person.
Okay. But she was difficult to work with.
Very difficult.
Very difficult.
Yeah, she has her reputation was always very very strong.
Yeah, I remember Randall Faxon in my company we were starting a new piece. She was going to do a full evening Scriabin. She loves Scriabin.
Yeah.
And I commissioned her to do it. We got a nice grant to get it done, but a full evening of Scriabin music. And we're all waiting in the Dance Notation Bureau studio that we were using at the time. And everyone's getting nervous. Anna's coming. She's going to start a new piece. And Randall says, I hope she remembers she likes me. I will never forget that day.
To make or break the experience, I
Right.
would imagine.
Anyway, what a great artist.
Yeah, for sure.
Truth is, and she taught me not to bend,
Yeah.
to always be true to yourself.
Vital piece of information, I
Oh,
think,
absolutely.
for your whole
Yeah.
life, everything that you do. I know that one of the bigger influences on your life was Jose Limon in many, many, many capacities. Can you talk about working with him, but also talk about your initial meeting?
Okay.
I think that's a great story.
And I must say, Jose was probably the most influential person in my life. We were friends. He took me on almost as a son. And trusted me with his life, basically.
So you had very strong relationships with people, just ongoing.
Ongoing. It was
Yeah.
part of my personality, I guess. But yeah, I can tell you a funny story. I get into Juilliard. I'm 18 years old. I'm going there because I keep out of the draft, you know. No intentions of becoming a great modern dancer in the world, you know. And I'm standing by the elevator, and Jose had seen me maybe for a month or two in classes. And he turns to me, he says, how would you like to go to Japan, Korea, Taiwan, Australia, Malaysia, and starts listing off all these countries in Asia. And of course I said, sure, no question, I'd love to do that. And then we got on the elevator, he went to his class, I went to my class, and I didn't hear a word for weeks and months. So I figured he was just joking. Then I got a call from management to start rehearsals. Next thing I knew, I'm 18 years old in the Limon Company. I'm up at Connecticut College, which is the early American Dance Festival, learning all this repertory. And then we come back to New York and we opened Lincoln Center. I performed in Misa Brevis, the first work I actually performed with the Limon Company. And Chase Robinson, who was the soloist of the piece, got sick that night. So I was a soloist at 18,
Wow.
dancing his role, because I learned everybody's role.
Yes, that's what you do when you first get into a company. You just learn
everything you can.
Ready to
And
jump in at a
and
moment's
it's paid
notice.
off on so
Yes.
many occasions. I
Yeah.
even tell students now, you picked as an understudy, learn it.
Exactly.
You will end
You
up
never
doing
know.
it. You never know.
People think that that doesn't happen, but it actually really, really
Oh,
does.
it always happens.
It always
If you
does.
learn it, and even if you learn it and there's no chance of it happening, that choreographer's seen you.
Yes.
And wow, and I think it's what Jose liked about me is I could get up, I could look at something and get up and do it. So he'd always, show me that again, you know. Boy,
You're a quick study.
I was.
You learn things very
I can't
easily.
say I can do it anymore. And I
People
can do
must
it,
have seen
yeah.
that in you as well,
Yeah.
in your personality, but also that you were a great instrument and did what you did so well.
I'll tell you another quick story. When we were in Asia, again, this is first year in the company, a couple of months into the company, I had learned the Emperor Jones, told you about I was the understudy. And it's a men's work, a fabulous work, Eugene O'Neill's Emperor Jones.
Right.
And I wanted to do it so bad, but I was not casted in it. And Jose casted people as he saw fit. But I really wanted to do it. And Chester Walensky is in the dressing room, and every now and then I say, come on, Chester, let me do it, you know, joking. And I'd bug him a lot. And he would say to me, leave me alone, leave me alone. So one day in Singapore, we had an outdoor performance in front of 60,000 people. And Singapore was sort of a strange with these weird bugs flying all over the place. I think he didn't want to do this outdoor performance. In front of City Hall, it was Malaysia Day, the day that Malay became a federation with North Borneo.
Oh, my.
And a very special performance to be televised around the world.
Yeah.
So he picked up the costume, threw it at me, and walked out. So I sat there, and I said, well, what do I do? And it was getting time to put on that costume. So I put it on, I go out, and I do the piece.
And you were not cast in this piece. You were just...
I was an understudy.
You were understudy, okay.
And generally when you're an understudy, you're told when to go on.
Right.
You know. So during the piece at the very end, when Jones dies, you lift him up, you put him down, you lift him up, you put him down. I had Jose's armpit in his hand, up, down, and on the down, our eyes met each other for the first time. And I got a stern look that I couldn't believe.
He didn't expect to see you.
No. Piece is over, and I'm in the dressing room, and I was going, oh my God, I'm in trouble now. Short-lived career, you know. And Chuck Tomlinson, the costume person, wardrobe, comes into the dressing room, very sternly says, Mr. Lewis, Mr. Limon would like to see you in his dressing room now. Well, I'm really upset.
Yes.
So I slowly walked to the dressing room.
That's not a good sign when you're called to the director's dressing room.
Just as I get to the dressing room, Pauline Lawrence Limon, Jose's wife, who was also the pianist for the Tennis Show and Company when they went to Asia many years before, pushes me aside, goes into the room, and says, Jose, brilliant idea to put Danny in that piece. He was so good. Oh, and Jose, oh yes, come here. I just want to thank you for doing the work and how good you were. And I tell you, my life was saved.
She became a very good friend and advocate for you, I
That's
imagine,
right.
from that
Totally.
moment on.
That moment on. And she started giving me responsibilities.
Oh, wow.
And next thing I knew, Jose wanted me to be his assistant.
Right.
I'm sure that was from Pauline.
Right.
And next thing I knew, he was sending me around the world to stage ballets of his.
Right. So you were dancing with him. You spent many, many years with him as well.
Yeah.
As a dancer.
12 as a
staging his
dancer, and then
ballets.
2 more as artistic director of the company when
And
he
you
passed
became
away.
director when he passed away.
But we had a great life together.
Yes.
He was a regular guy.
He was not only your director, he was your friend.
He was a friend, but he was a guy.
Yeah.
We would go out and cruise through the neighborhoods and find junk that we put together and make things with.
Yeah.
He liked being on his little, like I do here with my lawnmower. He loved his lawnmower out at the farm, cutting grass.
Yeah.
He built furniture at the farm. I have a lot of the furniture in the house now that he's built. We became closer. I'll never forget, as a birthday present, I bought him a Ewer tape machine, a little tiny one, but a really high quality machine. And I recorded all the Beethoven piano sonatas for him.
Oh, nice.
I gave it to him, I show him how to work it, he goes out to the farm. I get a phone call. It doesn't work. So I get in the car and I run down there. And he shows me, look, it's not playing. So there's a little switch for the volume. I pushed it in and the music came on. He goes, why did they put that there?
Oh, wow. Well, you always very technology inclined.
I was always into technology.
From the word go, you have always wanted like little gadgets and little
Right.
things. I know it became a big part of your life ongoingly. But
Yeah, even in terms of my creative life.
Yes.
Doing work that was done in 5 continents simultaneously.
Right.
What they're doing now on Zoom, I was doing 20 years ago,
Isn't that something?
using Internet 2,
Wow.
which was a high-speed Internet at the time.
Goodness gracious. So I know that education was a big part of your life from Juilliard, but then it kind of took you to Miami when they were headhunting for the dance department at New World School of the Arts. Can you tell us a little bit about
Yeah,
how
that's
that
an interesting
happened?
story. I wasn't looking for anything.
Yeah,
I was happy at Juilliard. I was Martha Hill's assistant.
yeah.
I had a beautiful apartment. I had a company, my own company, that was very successful.
Right.
We toured all over the country. Sokolow was my resident choreographer.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, she was
Wow.
my resident choreographer for I
Oh,
think
wow.
10 years.
Wow,
And I
okay.
commissioned 7 ballets that she did, that she's
Goodness.
choreographed. Major
Yeah.
work.
So you had a very close relationship with her.
Oh yeah. Well, there's a work. It's called As I Remember.
Uh-huh.
I'm going to go back for a minute. This is a good story. For years, I've been having dinner. I had dinner with Anna maybe once a week.
Uh-huh.
Every week she called.
Okay.
And I'd always say, Anna, what about doing some of those work she did in the 40s and the 20s, during the WPA period? She
Yeah.
did some great work. The Bullfighter, Lament for a Bullfighter. They were just wonderful little solos that she did in the needle trades business.
Yeah.
And she would always say, nah, I don't remember them. I don't remember them. And one day we're having dinner and she finally said, I don't remember. I said, well, do it as you remember. And she went, As I Remember. And she took 3 of them. We titled it As I Remember. And it's a suite that's done all over the place now.
Oh, sweet. That's perfect.
And we couldn't find one piece of music. I even flew to Mexico to find the music from her lover in Mexico.
Uh-huh.
And he didn't have the music. He didn't know where it was. So we used Chicoria. I found a piece that she liked, contemporary work, and she put that to it. But no, we had a very, very close relationship.
Goodness gracious.
But now I lost track of what the question.
New World School of the Arts. You're true to
Anyway,
them.
I was saying I had no intentions of leaving New York. I had a great life. I had a company. I had Juilliard. I was touring with Limon.
You were with Martha Hill,
Martha
working with
Hill.
her.
No reason to leave.
Yeah.
And Martha turns to me one day and says, Danny, you need to get out in the world and do something now. And there's this job in Florida that's come up. You should go apply for it. So I shocked a little. Well, I can't say shocked because she's been trying to get me to go to Australia for many years. Pioneer country. She wanted me to go out and do something on my own.
She always was interested in Australia for some reason. Wasn't
It
that
was
like
pioneer
a big...
country. She
Yeah.
was a pioneer.
Yeah.
You gotta remember that she was in the 20s and 30s doing an art form that didn't exist yet.
Yes.
She was making it happen.
She was an innovator. She always was
and
like
she
to
always
tread new
sent kids out
territories.
to do something in their own
Yes.
way. But
Which
she
is probably
wanted,
why she wanted you to go to Miami.
she wanted me to go to
like,
Miami, and it also had to do with Richard Klein. He was the principal at the High School of Performing Arts, which now has changed. It's called LaGuardia,
Yes.
where they took music and art and visual arts and put them together.
I see.
And it opened up behind the Juilliard School at Lincoln
Right.
Center. So Richard came over to watch me teach a class. And then he said I should apply. So I applied. I figured I'll go down and have a week vacation in the
Right.
sun.
It's Florida.
When I left here, I wanted the job. It was like virgin territory.
Right.
There was a lot of things happening, but no sense of whole.
Did you have freedom to sort of do what you
Well,
wanted?
I'll
or-
tell you what made me decide is I asked the committee, I said, well, what kind of school are you looking for? They said, we don't know. We're going to hire 4 deans, each discipline, one dean each discipline. You tell us. And I said, and you have a budget for this? They said, yeah. And they showed me the spreadsheets, the kind of money they had. And it's being connected to Miami-Dade College, a great college. And at that time, it was the Florida International University and the Dade County Public Schools. They were going to create a school that goes from the 9th grade to the baccalaureate degrees, the BFA. I left wanting this job,
Right.
but never heard anything for months.
Did you have a vision for it? Did you know what you wanted to do?
I knew
or-
exactly what I wanted to do. When I saw the multiculturalism here, this territory that has some great ballet happening, Miami City Ballet just opened, the New World Symphony just started, and add New World School of the Arts to that, which
Right.
back then it was originally called the Florida School of the Arts or something like that, and then they changed it to New World School of the Arts.
Right.
I wanted it. I wanted to be part of
So on the
this
cusp of something happening.
Something about
Yes,
was going
that
to
you were
really
creating.
blossom. Then I finally got the call the day I was leaving for England to teach at the place for the summer, that they offered me the job. He gave me a quote of money I'd make. It was actually less than I was making. But, you know, New York is expensive.
yeah.
Miami back then was not expensive.
Not so much so.
So I said yes. I went off to England, finished my gig there, then went to Purchase to finish the thing I was doing there, and then moved down here. It's probably the best move I ever made in my life, because I started a school my way. I got the Miami-Dade College to agree to let me hire professional dancers,
Right.
because generally you had to have a what's it called, a master's degree
Right.
to teach days. And I said,
And dancers didn't always have that at
back
that time.
back
now
then
they
there were
do
none.
more
I said,
so,
I
but
said back then
at that
none
time
had.
they
I said,
didn't.
I could maybe find some with BFA degrees,
Right.
but not with master's
So
degrees.
dancers didn't necessarily
And
finish
even
school. They
with
start
the
dancing.
BFA degree, I turned to them and I said, how about this? If I hire this person and they earn their BFA while they're teaching.
While they're teaching, yes.
And they agreed to that.
Wow.
So
Goodness
these were
gracious.
people who had vision. They knew exactly what I was trying to do.
Right. They could see it.
Because I said 10 years professional experience just to get in as a teacher,
Yes.
which is unheard of back then.
Yeah. And you had a wonderful legacy at the New World School of the Arts.
Oh, great.
And education has been such a big part of your life ongoingly now. I mean, with FDEO, NDEO, Thomas Armour.
Well, that all happened when I retired.
Yes.
I decided that I was going to work for children because
Like
I
the
was
future generations.
I was lucky. I had a club foot. Not every kid in the world is born with a club foot, so I got involved in the arts.
Yeah.
But I decided that every kid needs to have art in their life.
Something.
It didn't matter if it was dance, theater, music, visual arts,
Right.
whatever it is, art.
This takes them somewhere
And that
else.
was when Ruth Wiesen invited me to be on the board of Thomas Alva Youth Ballet. I accepted. Within a year I was president. And we've built that into a great place. Ruth had a vision, and we just took her vision and went with it, you know.
Yes.
And Arts for Learning asked me to be on the board. About 15 different groups asked me to be on the board. I chose Art for Learning, FDEO, and Thomas Alva Youth Ballet. FDEO is the Florida Dance Education Organization.
Right.
Which is connected to NDO, which I've been a member of for years, the National Dance Education Organization, and where the sole purpose is to make sure that every child has the opportunity to be exposed to the arts. They don't have to be an artist.
Right.
They just need to be exposed to it, because people who are exposed to the arts are better off in terms of how they work. The corporations used to
Whatever
call
they
me
do.
and say, "Can you come and teach our executives creativity?" And I would laugh at them and say, "I can't. You know, it's too late. You learn. You don't actually learn creativity. You're guided through your creative process."
Right.
I'll tell you a story about a teacher teaching creativity to kids, where you make like an ice cream cone and you melt. You tumble on the floor like tumbleweed going through the
That's
desert.
Gaga.
Yeah, that's it, exactly. Yeah. Or you're a leaf flying in the wind, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
And she would always end the class by, she would lie by the door. The kids would line up one by one. They'd leap over the teacher into the hallway.
Oh, fun.
I know nowadays that would become a real risk management issue, you know, leaping into the hallway, but they did it. And kids have no fear of falling. You know. So one day the teacher said, "When you jump over me this time, I want you to scream." And they all got excited. They lined up, and the first little kid walked up to her and said, when I scream, do you want me to scream with my voice or with my body?" This makes a difference in the way a kid thinks.
Yes.
This will be a great corporate executive.
Yes.
This is someone who think outside the box.
Outside the box.
And that's what the
Definitely.
arts teach you.
Yes.
And not every kid that went to New World School of the Arts and Dance has become a dancer.
Yes.
Some of them become great executives, running businesses, doing wonderful things, because the arts teach you that.
Well, thank you. I think that it's been, we talked a little bit about everything. You have such great stories to
Yeah,
tell.
I got
It's
more.
So fun. I know you do. Thank you so much for your conversation.
my
and for
pleasure.
spending a little time sharing your life with us. It's been wonderful.
Good. Thank you.